Welcome to our show again. I'm Elmer, this is Mark, and you are at PSI. And no, you are not hallucinating. I got a haircut. So, yeah, I was getting a little shaggy in the last couple episodes, and the wife was getting tired of my hair getting into her face, and so it's just, honey, it's time for a haircut. So we went to one.
Why was your hair getting in your face?
Well, you figure it out.
Oh, okay.
You added up.
I would have thought that romantic look was kind of good.
Oh, well, not to her. She liked me the old way. I used to have shorter hair. Anyways, years ago we found this one Filipino lady who does cut hair, and so anyway, she knows what Filipino guys are supposed to look like, and so that's why you see this handsome fellow right in front of your screen today. Huh? So, anyways, lots to talk about today. Let's see, what do we have here on the list? We have Yu Jo Wang. She's back. Yu Chan Lin. More about him later. And we have a bit about a tribute to Maurizio Pollini.
Yeah.
That's shocker here. International Schimmel Piano Competition. It has just ended about just a few days ago. I haven't got a chance to watch the whole thing, but I can give you a few highlights of what I've noticed about that competition. Also on the board today is, now you're going to have to help me with this name. I can't do this, but it's this Vikinger, how do you say it? Olofsson?
Oh, Vikinger Olofsson.
Yeah. He sounds so much better at saying that.
He's Icelandic pianist. Some of you guys must know him by now. Vikinger Olofsson. Yeah.
I'll leave the name to you.
Well, his last name is the son of Olaf, because, they do that a lot with their names.
Okay, well.
North Viking descendants. And then Vikingur, I don't know what that exactly means, but it's got Viking in it. So.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
He doesn't look like a hale and hearty, axe-throwing kind of Viking. He's kind of skinnier, more effete kind of guy.
He wears glasses.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, also today, mark your calendars. This is new to me, but Deutsche Grammophon has declared today as World Piano Day 2024.
So this is March 28th?
Yes.
And it's World Piano Day.
Yeah, that's according to them it is. They just released a video. It's about roughly an hour and a half of featuring a bunch of pianists.
Wow. Why were we so late in learning about this?
I don't know. I'm late too. I mean,
nobody told me.
Nobody told me either.
Of course, every day is piano day for me. So.
Oh, yeah, well taken. Yeah. Ditto. Yeah. But anyway, so I hope you've all had a good week.
Can I say something just about these things real quick before we get to that? Oh, this stuff right here.
This stuff here?
Yeah.
Oh, you like that?
Just real quick, I wanted to thank Elmer. He was kind enough to loan me this. Sadly, I didn't look at it, but I would be surprised if they're still up and at it. I'll look at it while you're talking. It's what's it called? Classical Disc Digest.
Digest. Yeah.
It's published out of New Jersey, but probably more or less around New York City, Manhattan area, probably kind of thing. This was I asked him if I could keep it because it had some interesting articles. There's a Beauty Man that just died at the time.
Yeah.
This is the early 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
And so there's a nice reminiscence of him. and then a reprint of an interview that a British guy did with him. And then there are memories of Ruth Slinzinska in an interview talking about different famous pianists that she studied with or consulted with. Very interesting, very personal insights into it. And he covers everything. There's even jazz stuff in there. Of course, there's an opera section. It really is an encompassing little digest there. And the really impressive part is the writing. I don't know who, well, there's a lot of contributors. There's probably at least a couple dozen of them. The editor himself writes some things, but wow, this was this would have been a really wonderful thing to have access to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was in school at the time, and maybe I'd see stuff in the library or something, but I missed a lot during my whole educational period. Like I told you, like Murray Pariah came into the world and played and won things and performed and stuff. A lot of guys that did stuff from certainly the mid-'80s until about 2000. I was in my own piano world, you know.
Oh yeah.
Studying, performing, going around the country and the world and stuff like that, and just missed out. It's like Rubinstein said when he was interviewed. He said, well, one of the nice things about getting older now and slowing down is I can listen to all these great performances of all these colleagues of mine who I just never had enough time to listen to.
Yeah.
But this, if you can find any old copies of it, and you know with eBay and stuff, it's called, what is it,
Classical Disc Digest.
Wow, it was really good, and I want to thank you for loaning it to me so I can
No
read
problem.
some really good stuff in it. And then just a little reminder, those are for you.
Oh, these are for me. Oh,
You
thank
said
you,
want
Mark.
copies.
Oh,
And that is too, but that's just different. So I'm
Oh.
not to mention it.
oh, God.
But,
I get to- oh my.
I mentioned, I think, last week's program. No, the one that I just put up, 0009, mentions it, I think, the first time. Piano Rare Scores, PRS, or pianorarescores.com, is another option for generally out of print or hard to get or historically elusive or forgotten piano originals music and then editions and things by really fine artists and pianists of the past. And as it happens, I found 2 pieces by Van Cliburn. Actually, the one piece is not by Van Cliburn. It's arranged by another guy. It's the Moscow Nights piece that he played famously as an encore many times. That was written for him. But there is another piece that he himself actually wrote. But they have like 10 pages of names of Soviet and Russian pianists and composers for piano. There's a whole section for Liszt students who wrote things. And there's a few Chopin ones. There's a couple Brahms students. They have a whole French school of things. They have Alfred Cortot for $28. You get practically everything that he edited. Schumann, Chopin, Liszt. I mean, anything that probably is Beethoven. I think he edited Beethoven too.
Wow.
It's all there. That's PRS. And anyway, I had some things I wanted to give Elmer back or to give to him. So
Thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah.
I love it.
You were really I didn't know that International Piano Quarterly was for me.
Oh, it is.
I enjoyed looking at it. It's especially got a lot of Georgie Schiffer stuff.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So,
You want to start with
oh
the list?
yes, I want to pick this up about the future way.
We're going to try to keep ourselves at 2 hours or less, because I know I can get, and he's very kind, and I can get on a roll like I don't know, a minister or a politician or a philosopher.
Yeah, we still love you anyway.
We get rolling. But
Okay.
the last 2 I put up have been less than 2 hours, and I thought they were enjoyable to edit, and I thought they were a nice length. We covered quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, that picture of Rubinstein still kills me, man. That's so funny. Okay, so by the way, now that we've sort of shortened these things,
No, that's
sort of,
We're not straggling ourselves off or
yeah,
cutting off anything here, but just trying to be.
good.
Well, just save some for the next time. It's like Schnabel never played encores
Right.
because his philosophy was leave him wanting more.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
That's what my mom
So
used
then
to
they'll
say.
come back, they'll pay tickets and come back the next time.
But anyways, if you like our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, tell your friends and family about us, okay? But anyways, back to the show here. Yuja Wang is doing comedy work. She's doing comedy work. You have to see it. One of my a colleague of mine told me about this on YouTube. There's a channel called Igudisman Jew. Okay, it's Igudisman Igudesma M as in Mary AN.
What?
There, Igudisman Jew. And
Oh,
Jew
Joe.
Joe.
It would be pronounced Joe.
J-O-O.
Because I was hearing JDW. This is J-O-O like a Korean or Oriental Joe.
Okay, well, it's kind of funny because,
Although maybe it's meant to sound like Joe.
well, because it's funny you should say it. They're amateur, very amateur classical musicians. They're not, they don't tout it, but they accepted the level of talent, and so they decided to do comedy, right? And Yuja Wang is back there, and they're doing all sorts of things. You get to see her play timpani during some of these things. There's a scene in there.
Really?
Yeah. Let's see what else she does. They do on stage work out in public, and she's like break dancing and rapping as well. The one particular skit they do is called Yuja Wang is the Clone. And that was the first video I saw. And what it involves is one of them is playing the piano, and he's trying to learn to play Flight of the Bumblebee. And of course, he's like taking it at a very moderate tempo and flubbing here and there until his buddy comes in with his box. He says, "It's here, it's here," and and the guy at the piano says, "It's like, what? What's here?" Well, as you could guess, a package had arrived, and out of the box comes out Yuja Wang. And so, did you want to hear the story? I'll give you a spoiler alert. This is a spoiler alert in case he wants to hear the rest of the.
I think I'd rather hear her play the piano.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You want to hear the rest of this? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Spoiler alert. If you don't want to hear the rest of the story, you might want to fast forward about another minute or two. But anyways, so Yuja Wang pops out of the box, and he said, and the guy at the piano is like, but that's Yuja Wang. He says, well, yeah, well, it looks like Yuja Wang, but it's not. He says, it isn't? He says, yeah. He says, well, you don't have to play the piano anymore. This thing will do it for you. And, she's a real trooper. She lets the guy put his hands around her waist and lift her out of the box. And he carries her over to the piano and plops her on the stool. And he says, we'll just adjust the arms this way, put her in position like that. And we make a few adjustments here, okay, there. Push the button, and she's off to the races, and she's like playing the final pages of the Carmen variations.
Wow.
And then it says, oop, that's a little much. He says, turn it off. A few more adjustments here. Okay, push the button, and for just a few mere seconds, you get to see her do her impression of Long Long. So it says, nope, that's Long mode. Don't want that. But anyways, that's pretty much the skit. And so she winds up playing. But anyways, she's very funny. She's actually very funny. So she actually had time to join these guys to do these comedy routines. There's about half a dozen or so videos.
Are they all Asian artists?
No, they're not.
Is it done here in America, I think?
That's a good question. I don't know.
And what's the name again?
It's Agudisman Joe. Okay, there. The name's right there. That's funny. When they introduce themselves, the guy, the Korean guy or the Asian guy, he goes by Agudisman. Meanwhile, the other guy who looks Caucasian, he's the one that goes by Joe. So it's kind of funny.
So it's the two of them.
It's supposed to be just the two of them, but they invited Yuja Wang along for the ride, and so she's like I said, she's a real trooper and gets up there and entertains with them. So Well,
Interesting.
it's a breath of fresh air. She's not like the others, you know.
Is she
only-
permanently part of the group, or is she just a guest?
No, she's a guest.
Yeah.
She's a guest. I would imagine. I would imagine that she's got enough touring to do and performances to do that.
Well,
You know,
Jeff,
she
you
would-
want to come on our show sometime. You know, I'm not gonna put my arms around you. I don't know if I can't speak for Elmer, but
Well,
you're more than welcome to come and visit with us.
yeah, she'll come through the door and we'll spend 5 minutes trying to pick the pieces of our jaw off the floor. Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, all right. Next on the list
Where
here.
are you going?
Sorry.
One more time. What's the name of the magazine?
Magazine? Oh,
I looked it up. I thought, but I just didn't get it right.
classical disc.
Classical disc. I'm just right. Isn't that right?
Why, you're trying to see if it's still correct?
Classical disc. I did have it right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no reference to it at all.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Anyways, on Slip Disc, Dr. Mark sent me this link to Slipped Disc. By now, most of you should be familiar with that. After we've been talking about it on our episodes. But this recent article about Yoon Chan Lim with his hand injury, a lesson learned at a very young age. I would imagine. Well, the article says that the hand has gone under some strain, according to his doctor, and so he's postponed some of his future performances to do some healing. So I would imagine. I would imagine it's from playing.
Of course it is.
Those 8.
And the repertoire, but I sent it to you, and I said, I imagine playing the Rock 3, because, when Cliburn won the Tchaikovsky and came back to the States, he had a problematic solo career. I mean, he was the best paid pianist. I think maybe only Arthur Rubinstein was making as much or more money. But per concert, I think Ben Cliburn was the best paid in the world at the time.
Probably.
Huge amount at the time, like 10 or 12,000 an appearance. But that's 1960.
Yeah, imagine today.
And but everybody wanted to hear Rachmaninoff third, Rachmaninoff second. Back in those days, the Grieg,
Tchaikovsky.
the Tchaikovsky, especially the Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
And he was kind of getting burned out because, he was constantly getting invitations all the time. But, back in the day when America was quite wealthy after the Second World War and we built up the rest of the world, the economy was quite different than it is now. But there's orchestras all over the place. They all wanted to hear Van Cliburn. They all wanted to hear the Tchaikovsky B flat, And it was something like, for a total of 12 years or something, he only played, like, most of the time, 8 concerti or something like that. And, once in a while I'd get to play solo music. But apparently it was the commercial restrictions placed upon what people wanted to hear him play. He said, but I want to play this, I want to try this and that. Yeah, but people don't want to hear you play that. They want to hear you play da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay you da-da-da-da-da to play da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is why when he set up his own concerto competition in Texas, he created it so that it would include so much variety.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to play chamber music. He wanted to play solo recitals, and he wanted to play with singers. Much like, over his lifetime, what Rubinstein was able to do.
Yeah.
Later in his life, he joined with the Guarneri Quartet, recorded some Beethoven and Brahms with Henry Schering, and then there's trios, the $1 Million Trio, Gorski and Heifetz. Well, Van Cliburn wanted to do all that stuff, and clearly he was up to it, because I've got an old album where it's the Barber Sonata on one side and the Prokofiev
6 on the other side.
Oh man, could he play those things. That guy was brilliant. Really old school, extraordinary super pianist, and interesting to listen to.
Oh yeah,
always had wonderful, beautiful things to say.
Yeah.
But I've seen, where Yoon Chan's kind of been popping around all over the place, and more than not, what you see these little snippets of the Rachmaninoff third.
Yeah.
It's considered by pianists to be one of the most difficult.
Yeah.
And part of it, I think, is because you basically play nonstop for 3 movements for about 45 minutes. It's in a Baroque style, so that rather than, the orchestra says something and then the piano scratches something out and then the orchestra takes over again, this kind of contrasting thing.
Yeah.
It's like a Baroque concerto where the keyboard's playing all the time because he's either supporting the orchestra or he's doing his own solo stuff. And this is the way that Rachmaninoff kind of modeled it. So, and I think Yunchun does that brilliantly.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's put it this way, a lot of people that play don't do anything close to that.
Nope.
Beautiful playing. But then he also played the Liszt etudes.
Yeah, transcendental
Transcendental
etudes,
etudes
all
and stuff.
12 of them.
I can imagine in so short a time, and he was traveling world travel.
Oh, yeah.
He was in Seoul, he was in Japan, he's
England.
in Europe, he's in America.
Yeah.
Boy's probably not getting enough rest,
I would
and all that
think
kind
not.
of stuff.
Yeah.
But hopefully he'll be okay, because oh my God, it would be a tragedy with
Oh,
that kind
yeah,
of
no
genius and the way he plays.
Yeah.
I think, to me, when I really discovered more recently in the past, just recent years, really got to hear a lot of Ignaz Friedman and realized what an amazing pianist he really was. Amidst all the great pianists.
Yeah, no kidding.
What an extraordinary pianist he was. And Yunchun Lim reminds me of Friedman. Not the same, he doesn't play quite the same way. He's more a modern pianist.
Yeah.
But the colors and the idea of gesture is the primary thing that he's trying to communicate.
Absolutely.
So I hope it's just a good lesson for him,
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's been getting paid pretty well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So
Absolutely.
he can just learn to be like Jonas Kaufmann, the tenor in Germany, or Michelangelo, wasn't it?
Michelangelo, yeah. Arturo Benedetti.
If you don't, I mean, it's unfortunate to do this, but to be honest, Pavarotti got to be that way eventually. If he wasn't going to be able to hit the high C, I'm out for the night. I'm not saying it. And I don't know. Some people interpret it as ego. Other people interpret it as conserving a great gift and being careful with it so that it can have as long a life as possible. I mean, come on, there's like really gifted baseball pitchers.
Yeah. You throw their arms out.
Throw their arms out, put out the shoulder and stuff, and then it's gone. And some of those guys, I mean, from a baseball perspective, they're just as fascinating to watch as Yunchun Lim.
Are you sure about that?
I mean, for totally different purposes. But, remember certain guys like, how hard it is to throw a slider?
I don't know.
Phil Niekro was famous for his slider. He used to play for the Phillies, and then I think he played in Atlanta as well, or Baltimore, something I forget.
All right.
And then, but I remember certain guys, Don Gullet of the Cincinnati Reds, come on, back in the day. Nolan Ryan with California Angels
That name
was the only guy who was throwing a fastball faster than 100 miles an hour. 104 was pretty much what he was doing. And that was 20 miles faster than most guys back in the day. I mean, baseball batters would say, well, you hear it. Sounds like bacon on a skillet, but, you're swinging blind because you're swinging for the sound. You hear it start to approach the plate, and you just really got to pinpoint with your ears because you can't see the damn ball. I mean, there are some really great talents that come on. I remember I was living in Japan at the time.
Yeah.
The last great year of the Chicago Bulls before they all broke up and they won the big awards.
Yeah.
And seeing
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
The guy was like Baryshnikov or something.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing. He was a slightly shorter guy, but watch him go into this forest of giant trees and just weave his way through and then up in the air like a ballet dancer.
Yeah.
Poof, that thing's in the basket.
Yeah, I learned a new term from that watching a basketball thing. Up until I watched my first Chicago Bulls game on television, I had finally learned the word hang time.
Yes.
Never knew what that word was.
And
Everybody was
cool because if you watch Baryshnikov, that's what he could do. Nureyev was a great dancer too. But Baryshnikov had hang time. He would do that. And it was weird because I'm sure it's the physical impression of creating the arc in the air.
Yeah.
But it looked like he was suspended up there for a little bit before gravity took it effect and he came down. I'm sure it was somehow the way he held the body and the position of the arc. Because, I mean, gravity is 100% effective on all of us, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I remember that about it. He would, like, lift up into... It was like a ballet dancer. He would almost, like, lift off the ground.
Yeah.
Like he was breaking the laws of physics, escaping gravity, and just, like, lifting up. And then it was almost slow motion in the way that he dunked the ball. But it was all in real time.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't slow motion.
Well, I tell you what, I have a DVD at home. I'll bring it in sometime. You might be interested in it if you're into watching Baryshnikov, how he does his stuff. It's his student days.
Ooh,
it's video footage of his student days. You get to see him warm up and jump up and down and stretch. Then when he finally goes into his routine, everybody in the whole school is like going.
I'll write this down when I edit this, and I'll put up a picture of it. But it reminds me of a fabulous film with Baryshnikov in it, where he's acting, and Gregory Hines.
Yes, I know it. White Nights.
Oh my God! Some of the dancing in that is red hot, fabulous. Really amazing. I love to see human beings do really extraordinary things. I mean, because we've got all this AI and computer-generated stuff and everything. Everything is possible now.
Yeah.
But what I remember, I mean, it brings tears to my eyes when I see The American in Paris with Gene Kelly and that final ballet at the end of it, where they do the whole thing. Or even before that, I think I don't know if it's in that film. It's not in that film. It's in another film with the couple, the guy and lady dancers that dance so much.
Fred Astaire.
Fred Astaire. It was a Fred Astaire film, but it's color. And there's him, and there's another guy, I can't remember his name, who does this kind of vaudevillian, goofy kind of accent stuff, where he trips on things, where he stands on a sofa and it falls over.
Yeah, or runs into the wall and goes up like that. Yeah.
But it's a real human being doing that stuff. You know, I mean, but the thing where it looks like he's going up around the ceiling, that's a camera, actually.
Yeah, that's a camera.
But the other stuff that he's doing, it's a human being doing that.
Yeah.
And the choreography in The American in Paris that Gene Kelly does is just amazing, you know. It's incredible. And I've had the good fortune of Will and Grace. Remember Will and Grace? For a while, Will works for, we just said his name, the black tap dancer.
Gregory Hines?
Yeah. He's a big boss lawyer guy. And more than once, a couple times, just for fun, he's in he's in Will and Grace's apartment. And he does some tap dance in the apartment.
Oh.
Guys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just use the word Mozartian as an adjective to describe human beings that they're kind of genius, you know? Well, there's Gregory Hines, there's Baryshnikov, there's Nolan Ryan, there's Michael Jordan. You know, just sometimes the people, there's you and John Lim. You know, and I just hope for the boy that he learns from this. He has a very good teacher, because his teacher, we looked it up, I sent the information to you.
I remember that.
Forget now the information with them, but the cool thing is that they're both based in New England now. Right? New England. In Boston. Yeah, his teacher was brought over from Korea, and Yunchin's going to continue to study with him in America, out of Boston. His teacher had studied with somebody important, I forget who it was, and was quite a bit of a prodigy himself. Boy is having some problems, and we keep threatening to do this, although you wouldn't have heard it much because those shows never made it up on YouTube, where we want to discuss methodologies and some ideas about playing the piano. we're going to have to plan that out a little bit. Make
Oh,
sure we
yeah.
both read the materials so we can digest it and talk about them. But
Yeah, which brings me to this.
um,
We're going to do. We're
Oh,
definitely going to talk about
good.
this. If any of you have this book, go ahead and read it. It's a wonderful book, and we're going to definitely discuss.
yeah, that's a
some of
small
the
one.
stuff.
That's a good one
Yeah,
to talk
it's a
about.
good one to start with.
Especially for the advanced pianists, is the what is talking about legato and about pedaling.
Yeah.
Are two of the things that really leaped out at me.
Yeah,
I thought
exactly.
were very helpful. Well, anyway,
So,
that's
anyways, moving on.
That's my little moment there. Yeah, poor Yun Chan.
He has
I was
many
concerned
moments.
when I saw that.
I know. So
But I thought, he's still only 18 or 19, and the body's still very fresh
Yes.
and
Yeah,
flexible. And hopefully, if he just gives it a good rest, he'll be fine. And maybe, especially at this time, he and his teacher can talk about, well, it's like when a coach tapes stuff and then shows it to the team. And look at what you're doing here. That when they're studying scrimmage work and their positions and things, doing stuff. They could maybe film him a little bit and see what he's doing and check his physiology and movements and certain things. See if he's developed any
habits.
bad habits or.
Well, nowadays,
One of the things which is really important.
What?
Breathing. I learned this as I worked with singers, and then I worked with Ellsworth after my master's degree. There is nothing more natural than singing, natural music making. Maybe beating on things for percussion, okay?
Yeah.
But I think even within it, breath is what gives life to things. I mean, when we stop breathing, we die.
Right.
And the amazing thing is it's an autonomic system, so it does it. It just does it. The unfortunate thing is when it stops doing it, then you're pretty much a goner. But, I mean, as pianists, we're good at this. I mean, a lot of instrumentalists can do this. I mean, technically, bowed instruments, this is their breath.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it's always taught that way exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, if you use a breath like a wind instrument or singing, but I actually stress breathing with my pianists because I do know from having, I've studied physiology and anatomy and things and physical stuff. I think it's in these films. I don't know if there's anyone there, but
Okay.
I studied Japan and I got certification in Arizona in the United States. I have a second life as a shiatsu and Chinese medicine practitioner, something that I learned how to do and know a lot about. That idea of playing the gesture or doing this or whatever when you're making the music, there's implied in that necessarily that you do it in a breath.
Yeah.
With breath. All right, the breath is somehow connected to it. The breath is what gives it life, in a sense.
Yeah.
It's not just a mechanical, physical thing you do. But we haven't had lessons for a long time, but I think I used to talk to you about
Yeah, you did.
it. Because the thing that kind of gets me is when a student's playing and they're not used to my approach to it, and they're playing without breathing, I can almost pass out sitting in the chair because I start to connect with them.
Yeah.
And I realize they're holding their breath. They're not breathing. And I start to hold my breath.
Oh, gosh.
Stop! Let me catch my breath. Not playing with your breath or using it or working it can cause an enormous amount of tension in the body.
Yeah.
And that could be physical tension, but then the physical tension can go deeper. You can create, you develop hypertension. You hurt your heart.
Yeah.
You can really screw some things up. So you wouldn't hear this a lot from pianists, but I think because I've studied with exercise physiologists and different people like that who talked about it, my own teacher, Ellsworth, played a great deal of significance on the breath at the piano. Even Bilson, when he was talking about it all comes down to the gesture that you're trying to communicate. he was also implying that that comes from the idea of singing or bowing, because those were the two schools that were better explained and taught in the 18th century, that because the keyboard was a whole new thing. And basically, the ideas of articulation and playing the instrument could initially be attributed to Mozart's dad, the violin school that he'd written how to play. He was the authority on classical performance technique, and that was applied at the time to playing on the keyboard as well. But anyway, I'm just talking about it because it's an important subject to me. When I was in my doctoral program at Boulder, there were 6 of us. Another fellow who had been a professor already in California came in. He did his relatively quickly, came in and finished and got out. And I did mine relatively quickly too. We had 4 other colleagues. All of those 4 colleagues had physical issues during their doctorates.
Wow.
For a while. I mean, they're kind of out, one end or another. What do you call it that you get? I mean, cash register. Repetitive injury or
carpal tunnel.
Carpal tunnel. And it's because of Ellsworth. I really credit him, and having learned how to use the flexible wrist, floating arm technique and stuff like that, Leschetitsky influences and things like that. I played a lot. My ex-wife she was my page turner a lot. She was about February, I think, and she wrote a thing in her diary. She said tonight was Mark's 45th appearance in concert since last fall, and we're not even done with the year. I averaged more than 60, 70 appearances in a year during my doctorate. So I was still doing the school and practicing and doing all that and then performing. A lot of performances. And I was lucky, I didn't get hurt. When colleagues did. And I attribute it to, because I'll shut up after this. Basically, this needs to be open so that you can breathe through it. Your breath moves through the wrist. The intention comes to the mind, the heart, the soul, and then physically you've learned all of these different gestures. You activate what you need from the body, send it through. But it's an interesting idea. If the wrist is tight, then probably the gesture gets stuck here. It never makes it into the hand. And then you're just moving fingers and stuff. But if you allow it to move through, then you're allowing the gesture to flow through. That wasn't just unique to Ellsworth, because Olga von Til was a Hungarian pianist that I studied with in New Jersey. She had a very similar kind of approach to things. And was always talking about, she's the one that talked about having a combination of at the fingertip there being an eye and the mouth, so that the mouth was breathing into the piano and the fingertip was seeing and carrying. The eye was like the extension of the brain, and those two in constant, almost near constant connection with the key top was the way that you maintained your connection between yourself and your instrument. So we'll talk more at length about that stuff at time, but Yunshan's injury might be a nice way of us getting on our horses and looking at some of these, agreeing what to approach next and so forth, and then have a segment where we talk about it. Because this is important, guys. If you're serious about it, there is athletic aspects of being a musician. And comes with all the dangers of being an active athlete.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There was I keep saying I'll shut up. There was this wonderful Jewish deli in Madison called Ella's Deli. I think they're out of business now. They used to have one downtown near the campus, and then the guy was nuts for toys. Historic toys and all kinds of things like that. And he built a restaurant out on East, I forget what it was called, but out a ways in East Madison. And it was basically built on the outside to look like a merry-go-round.
Oh,
And it was effectively, except for the one back part of it, which went back into the kitchen,
yeah.
where a lot of the big work got done.
Uh-huh.
It was like 3/4 or 5/6 around.
Mhm.
There's tables and benches and everything, and up in the middle, where the middle of the merry-go-round would be, that was where they did their ice cream, made all the ice cream and everything. And the walls, the ceilings, everything was covered with toys, mechanical toys a lot of the time.
Wow.
The trains like going around in place. Woo-doo.
Wow.
And then if they weren't antique ones that he got paid to make them work, he had people inventing and creating toys or remanufacturing ones.
Huh.
So it was an amazing place to go. And on top of it, it was damn good Jewish deli food. Fabulous
Yeah.
beet borscht with sour cream.
Wow.
Oh, the chicken salad on the bialys or the bagels or something. Oh my God, it was great.
He had
Really
an ice cream.
But the reason I mentioned it,
Yeah.
there was a real original old toy that was up on the ice cream
Yeah.
area, up there next to the glass. String bass player, oboe, French horn, and a flute. And they were all guys, and they were all in tuxes.
Okay.
And it was interesting because every one of them, you know, they had it plugged in. It was always moving.
Okay.
And so the things were moving. And the bass player was a big, tall, skinny guy. And he's like leaning down like this. And he's going like this, you know, playing the bass. So imagine what he's doing to his spine. Well, that's of course spine.
Yeah.
And then there was the oboe player. He had his oboe like this. And he'd go, ooh, ooh, ooh. And the flutist is going like this, you know, twisting here, twisting here.
Yeah.
And the French horn player is going, let's see, it was like this, right?
Yeah.
Like this, twisting here. So you can see all this repetitive spinal injuries.
Yeah.
I was looking at that, and at the time I wasn't really thinking about that kind of stuff, but as the years went by and I became more interested in it, my doctorate through Ellsworth, and eventually studying Chinese medicine stuff, I always remembered that toy at Ellis.
Oh,
And I
God.
thought, man, it was really useful in an educational kind of way,
Wow.
because they do move like that. If you think about typical instrumentalists and the kind of movements they make when they perform. It was the 1980s, mid 80s, I think, when they already had, thanks to John Hopkins a lot, had developed sports medicine.
Yeah.
That had started especially in the 70s. They were starting to do that. They were doing it some more. But then some people in New York and at John Hopkins, for example, began to look at, and I bet one of the reasons was because of Leon Fleischer at Peabody.
Uh-huh.
Now his wasn't apparently from this.
Yeah.
He had focal dystonia,
Yeah.
which is an internal issue problem with the nerves and stuff. But him being at Peabody, which is John Hopkins University, one of the great medical schools, probably led to some curiosity about that. Because then all of a sudden there were these guys popping up in New York, in Boston, in Baltimore and Washington, D.C., specializing in performance arts injuries.
Wow.
And people are, oh, ballet dancers. No, instrumentalists, pianists, and instrument players and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, you think about it, and the strain and the stress, the pressure all the time, and it's repetitive injury stuff.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's
But
just
it's
like
also,
being a secretary typist.
Yeah,
or something.
but have you ever tried to? Well, you've played cello before.
Played
How
cello.
much pressure do you have to put on that string and do all that
With
vibrato
the
and
hand
stuff?
turned around like this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that would cause a lot of injury if you're not sure of the technique.
Yeah. It's interesting because some of these people, I mean, it's very interesting if they want to show off. So I've known some cellists, violinists, shake hands with them. They can crush your bones,
Oh yeah,
you know.
they sure can.
And pianists can too.
Yeah, I've seen.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had people ask me to open a jar because the other ones can't.
Yeah,
Now I'm
Yeah.
carefuler than I used to be because of the wrist thing.
yeah,
But if I can get it, press it right, just, you know.
yeah.
Because we've been working, I mean, it doesn't look like I'm going to win any races.
Okay,
You know?
but
But when
Yes.
it comes to the strength and the endurance, You know, you think about it, like I haven't done this kind of thing, but a piano recital,
Yeah.
hour and a half. I mean, sometimes mine an hour and 3/4,
Yeah.
almost 2 hours. Sitting there and doing this stuff
Yeah.
for an hour and a half or 2 hours, that takes some serious
Oh, yeah.
endurance and power.
Yeah.
And most of the time when I'm done, I'm ready to party. I'm not exhausted. I'm ready to go. So, yeah, but poor Yun Chan, buddy, pay attention to your doctor, to your teacher, and you don't have to go everywhere all at once. And you're fabulous. They're going to continue to offer you plenty of money.
We have hopes for you.
We can't afford to lose you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, by the way, that thing about jar.
Watch another 100 of them, but not you.
Yeah.
I hopefully didn't hear that.
Anyways, that thing about the opening up jars, so true about pianists being open jars. If you're some of you who don't want to risk entry your hand or your wrist, there is a trick where you carefully spank the bottom of the bottle or the jar first. Okay, and that tends to, for some reason, loosen the lid a little bit so that you could open the jar or the bottle.
Thing I do too sometimes is I do it quietly so they wouldn't see me do it. It's cheating.
What?
You take a spoon and you try to get it in between two of the notches under the lid.
Oh, that.
And like this, and if it pops the air just a little bit, that's because that's what it is. It's the vacuum that's holding it in place. But if you can get depends on the jar and the lid, but if you can get the spoon up, and if you just go like that, then it's going to open itself.
Oh, okay. Carefully.
In general, don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Don't do stupid.
Yeah, be careful. Watch your hand, watch your wrist. Spank the bottom of the bottle or the jar before opening. Very carefully. All right. Anyways, we come to the next segment. Mauricio Pollini.
Oh yeah.
My goodness, that was a surprise.
I read about him. I think I sent it to you.
You did.
He was playing somewhere last year or sometime before that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't working. He was forgetting things and having some drops. And it was on slip disc, I remember. And some people wrote in. Some people just don't have anything better to do than really bitch.
Yeah.
And be nasty to other human beings. I don't. People got to get a life. Find a heart somewhere.
Yeah. It's probably.
They were probably right. Maybe he should have had enough sense to stop. But
what was he playing?
I don't remember. It was a piano solo.
Piano solo recital.
But yeah, he apparently started to have some memory issues. But I also know, having studied physiology and things like that, that I had read that he'd been having some heart problems for a while.
Oh.
And this in terms of circulation.
Yes.
Because wasn't it his stroke that killed him?
Yeah.
I think he died
so.
from his stroke.
Yeah.
Who knows? Because the really scary thing is that certain people, after a certain age especially, but it can happen at any age, you have these little things they call there's a fancy word for it, a mini stroke.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, you don't know it.
Yeah.
Because your face didn't fall, you're not talking weird, you're not like suddenly, out of yourself. No, but you get these little moments and creates, scar tissue in the brain. And the body is pretty amazing about being able to correct itself, especially the younger it is. What's extraordinary is sometimes if something shuts off, it will actually grow another vessel that'll reconnect. And it's like somebody goes out there on the highway and this part of the road collapsed, so they just built a little amount of piece to connect and keep it going. But eventually that doesn't work. It doesn't work so well. So when they were saying that he was having some memory problems, and not just on stage, and also he could get testy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
that's a combination of probably some possible stroke stuff where
Yeah.
something's not working well in the circulatory system up
Yeah.
here, and I don't know if it's between dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's has to do with plaque in the brain.
Right.
I'm not really well versed on the biochemistry of that stuff, but I have known that people who have circulatory issues and may be tending towards those kind of brain shortcomings, they can be like that.
Wow.
So the poor guy
Yeah.
didn't quite finish out the best. And the unfortunate thing is that some people did suggest, well, maybe he should just hang it up, and allow his glory days
Yeah.
to speak for themselves. I read a beautiful tribute by from the Berlin Philharmonic that wrote a really nice testament to him and said we spent many decades together and done some wonderful things. They put up actually a special testimonial for him on the Digital Concert Hall.
Wow.
About him and his history of Berlin Phil, and then it features all their archived recordings with him playing. One of my favorite recordings of the Beethoven Fourth. Bellini was never really my favorite pianist.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the guy, Arthur Rubinstein's one of them, said that when he won, did he win the Chopin?
He won the Chopin competition.
And Rubinstein was on the jury and
Yeah.
said, this guy plays better than any of us sitting here at the table.
Oh, he also said he left the competition far behind. Far behind. That's the heck
So,
of a testament there.
and he's famous just for the execution.
Oh, yeah.
God. He played the etudes of Chopin.
Yeah, he did.
But one of my favorite performances of the Beethoven Fourth Concerto. Now I have different ones.
Right.
I like that special one that Hoffman did.
Yes, that's
I think that Ben Criven's performance of it is beautiful.
okay.
I mean, it's a lovely concerto.
Yeah.
And there's many performances I like, but I was a bit surprised at myself. One of the really lovely, beautiful playing of the slow movement was with Bellini,
Winnie.
and I believe it was Abato.
Botto. Yeah, okay, it
It was
was.
the Berlin
Yeah.
Philharmonic. It's on an LP.
Yeah.
I may have it on CD, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But I was just really blown away by how lovely it was.
Yeah.
I think part of it is also about, I've come in more recent years having a special appreciation for Claudio Abbado.
Yeah.
He was really an incredible musician.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Got his orchestras to do. And he was a fabulous accompanist or
Whatever.
a co-conspirator with his
Yeah.
soloist, Yeah, it's too bad about Bellini, but, he had he's going to go down in history.
Oh, yeah,
books.
he's
People are not
definitely-
going to forget it.
He's already in it. I mean, the latest edition of the Great Pianists.
Really?
He's already in there. Yeah, they got him in the same chapter as Alfred Brendel, as a matter of fact.
That makes sense.
Harold
Two
C.
very
Schoenberg.
different musicians.
Yeah.
Different pianists.
Yeah, Schoenberg says that, his kind of playing back then, most competitions thrive on that kind of playing.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, this was during a time during the 60s or 70s, and basically, according to Schoenberg, Bellini was basically an architect when it comes to playing. You get the notes, the rubato was carefully measured, notes are carefully weighted,
That's a really good way to
everything.
put it.
you
Is that, actually, that's a very
Yeah.
fair way to describe it. It's one of the things I think I kind of would appreciate about him is, and it's something that the Berlin Philharmonic people actually admired about his work, that he had kind of an architect's concept of the entire structure. He didn't get lost in the notes.
No, he didn't.
He knew the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
And everywhere where everything was and how it all fit together and stuff. And he tended to approach the scores that way. It wasn't just jumping with the piano part,
right,
but to study the entire work as a real composition.
Yes, absolutely.
And and that was reflected in his playing.
Yeah.
Some people thought he was a little cold,
Yeah.
but I think that's just because
The kind of pianist that,
they compared him to pianists who weren't cold.
yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just that there was a mind at work there.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's interesting.
it's a control. It's a control.
You know, when you think 20th century Italian virtuosi, the pianists, there's not a ton of them. There's Fiorentino, is it his name?
Fiorentino. He's not a cold
No,
pianist.
he's not at all.
Far from it.
And
Simone Pedroni, the latest.
yes, and there was Michelangelo, of course.
Michelangelo, who's Politi studied with him. Michelangelo, he said, which accounts for why his playing is so accurate.
I don't know so many of them. I confess a bit of ignorance of Italian pianists, but know some of them like that. But
Michel Campanella,
right, okay,
that's another one.
oh, I know, yeah. But then I also think about some of the great violinists from the 20th century. I knew some of them. Ruggiero Ricci, for example, was on the faculty at Madison for a while, and then the wonderful Salvatore Accardo. Wow,
Yeah.
amazing playing.
You guys got him?
Huh?
You guys got him?
No. Ruggiero Ricci was.
You had, okay, all right.
Yeah, he was on the faculty for a while at Madison. Kind of
Wow.
in his own studio, but they snagged him.
Wow.
Um,
I only know these guys from record
oh, and
albums.
I loved Sergio Luca.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful player. Some other people I think of, but and of course there's the great what do they call him? Says the Italian String Quartet.
Oh, Gordonary?
No, that was American actually.
Okay.
No. They were like that's their name, but there were 4 Italian musicians. What were they called, guys? I have to. Why am I blanking on them? Because I love them. I've been exploring them more recent years. The Beethoven quartets and stuff. Oh my God, they were kind of young when they got started. Anyway, I'll find it.
You'll look it up and post it.
Amazing.
So,
But why is that? I mean, there's a lot of great schools. The oldest music schools in the world are in Italy.
Yeah.
And Alessandro's graduate
Siciliani. Yeah.
of 2 of them. But the preponderance of concert artists don't seem to come from there as much as they do from
Yeah.
Russia, America, Germany,
Asia.
now Asia. Of
Yeah.
course. Is that just because of the density of population? Like you're just going to have more of them coming from like how many people are in Italy? And there's like, what, 83 million in Germany,
Yeah.
300 some here in America. God knows how big Russia is. I don't know. Bigger than us, I think. And there's a billion anyway in China or something.
Yeah.
And I can imagine Italy's smaller. So it's just maybe it's percentages, you know.
Could be percentages, could be the teachers.
I don't know if
The
that
teachers are getting better.
Yeah, different places, perhaps. I've been impressed with how the violinists are coming out of England,
England.
Britain,
Yeah.
and Scotland.
Yeah.
This is a Scottish violinist girl.
Yeah.
And 2 or 3 English ones, right? They're all kind of youngish.
Yeah.
Their names are now. A couple of them are, and I'm sorry I can't think of them right now, but they're internationally known. But they're, at least in Europe, really starting to make a name for themselves relatively young. But they got something going over there for string
absolutely.
players. And there's that Greek guy.
Yeah. Kim? What's his name? Oh, gosh.
I saw it recently. That tall, thinnish guy,
Yeah.
Greek violinist, who's played with Emmanuel Axe and Yo-Yo Ma, I think, recently. He's been doing some recordings and stuff, and I love. Well, anyway, we'll get it. That's another topic. I'm interrupting.
All right. That's all right.
Yeah.
But,
Hadelich, though, I think his name is either an Australian or German one. Really like his playing.
oh,
Hadelich.
yeah. He sent me a link to that.
I like him a lot.
Okay, which brings us to the International Schimmel Piano Competition.
Not a bad piano. My father had one. It was the last piano he had before he died.
Yeah.
They're they're the German version of an Asian piano, which means they have that certain kind of. I don't know much about them in terms of how they're manufactured. I know they make a lot of them.
Yeah.
Which means they probably adopted the kind of Asian way of making the pianos on big assembly line kind of stuff like that. But they have yet a more German sound.
Yeah.
What I don't often care for the Schimmels is that they get a little heavy in the action, a little resistant.
Yeah.
Like that idea that the Asians would have sometimes where they make them that way, because somehow a heavy action makes you a better pianist.
Oh gosh.
Which I totally disagree with.
No. No, absolutely not.
But obviously, if they've got a competition, they're making enough money to do something like that.
Well,
so where's the competition? In Germany?
It's in Germany. It's in Germany. Depends on what you mean if they have enough money to make a competition. The setting is sort of. It's not desirable. I'll have to be honest with you. The place looks like the inside of a piano store. It does. What bothers me is the back wall has in fancy lettering, in big letters, Schimmel, smaller letters, piano. And then in fancy writing, it says, your keys to happiness. It's got these wavy letterings and things. And it doesn't belong there. Not in a piano competition. It can be rather annoying. And if you're too conscious about your surroundings, you're going to notice that while you're up there playing. Now, some of the repertoire choices were rather interesting and rather curious. I'm still on the first video of the competition. It's round 1, day 1, and a young lady comes out and gives this sort of short speech in German. She's Asian. Obviously, she's not that well versed in German, but she's willing to try. And her repertoire was the first program, and they're allotted only 30 minutes. So she's playing Mendelssohn's D minor variations, and then she follows that up with Brahms' Paganini Variations, Book 1. Plays well, I guess, but it's a little bit much. It is. I mean, it's fire and brilliance. She's trying to give away too much so early in the competition. Now, the funny thing is, when you go on YouTube to check these videos out, the performances out, you go look at the comments and some of the informational background about the competition. They've actually given titles to each program. The first one was just a simple title. It was Variations, except it was in German. How do you say it? Variationen?
Variationen.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then the second one was a young man. He's Asian, and he gives his best to try to talk about the piece of his program, and it was all etudes. He did 2 Rachmaninoff etude tableaux, and then he followed that up with Franz Liszt Fufele, and then ended the whole program with 2 etudes by Kapustin. And actually, they were fairly refreshing after listening to the first program. The third contestant was a young lady from Russia, and her German, I'm sorry, her German didn't sound anything like German. But her program was just titled Russian Ballet. That was it. That was the only thing in English on that program. It's just Russian Ballet. And so I was assuming that she was going to do maybe one of those Pletnev ballet suites or something. But no, she didn't. Actually, she opened up with 3 or 4 pieces of Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet.
Ooh.
But she ended the program with the Stravinsky-Agosti transcription of Firebird.
Wow.
Given the acoustics of the place and how dry the sound was, it was not a great choice of music to play at that arena. The piano sounded
space for it to move in.
Yeah, I mean the microphone. I don't know whether the microphones were just too close up because you heard. I mean, even the tone of the piano was just going boom, and then it was gone, and that was it. And that was not working for her. Even when she had to pedal down for some of those bigger chords, it didn't work. It didn't work. So I mean, she obviously can play well. It's just I'm just not sure if those were the ideal pieces to play at that arena. Let's see, the next contestant, let me see if I can remember, actually was, and I do remember this guy's name, because his choice of repertoire was very refreshing. He played, his name was Andrew Yang. He sounded like he was from America. He sounded like he was American. He spoke very good English. His English was very good. His choice of repertoire, he opened up with 3 or 4 pieces of Poulenc.
Ooh.
Oh, it was gorgeous. Oh. It was beautiful. I don't recognize the name. I don't know the names of the 3 of the 4 pieces, but he did play the Melancholia.
Oh,
Melancholy. Yeah. Melancholy, what he said. And it was beautiful. It was really, really well refreshing. And then he closed the program with the 4th movement of Prokofiev Number 6.
Wow.
Yeah. So apparently, he did want to show that he had some, technique. But the first 4 pieces were wonderful. There was Poulenc. The opening, the first piece almost sounded like chorale-like. Chorale-like, all chords, and then the other one got a little bit more playful, and then melancholy,
French.
So, yeah, forgive my French, but anyways, that was a fine program.
How do you say it in? Is it Tagalog you speak or what?
Tagalog?
Yeah. What's melancholia?
Melancholia? I don't know.
You guys have that in the Philippines?
We probably do.
Pretty happy people, right?
For the most part, yeah.
It was interesting. There was
third world country.
They were talking about some people. Oh, it was some kind of Asian people. It was the Hmong or something like that.
Yeah.
They don't have a word for diabetes because traditionally nobody ever had it.
Yeah.
And so they were talking about Hmong people here in the United States going for medical assessments and treatments and stuff. And they said the problem sometimes with they can usually find people to translate for that, older people that can't speak English too well, or especially when it comes to explaining medical concerns. And she's saying, well, you have to explain to them kind of more like the symptoms and the things that are going on because they actually don't have a concept for diabetes because traditionally the diet never created diabetes in people, so they don't really get it.
Wow.
But over here they're eating McDonald's and processed foods and stuff and
drinking pop,
puffing up and drinking diet sodas and shit, and all of a sudden
diabetes.
They're pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
So maybe there's no melancholia in the Philippines.
I'll tell you what else.
Even with Marcos as president?
Yeah. I'll tell you what else they don't have. These people, half the population smokes cigarettes like nonstop.
Yeah.
And we don't have lung cancer. I'm sorry, we don't have throat cancer. We don't have lung cancer. I've never known a Filipino to get lung cancer or throat cancer from smoking all those cigarettes.
Well, I don't know how long they lived, but when the Spaniards first came to Central America, they were stunned by in some cases, how tall the Indians were.
Yeah.
And mostly naked. They had their loincloths and stuff. The women and the guys Now the women were topless,
Right.
the guys, because that's the way you could tell. But
Yeah.
but they were all smoking these huge cigars. Just rolled. I mean, they were rolled up tobacco, and they were
Okay.
smoking tobacco. And it said they were really
Long.
long. And it said, men and the women just smoking this stuff, and it said, "My God, it's like the whole city was on fire because everybody was smoking tobacco." It clearly was not for spiritual purposes with the Aztecs. No, but then, of course, that's where the Spaniards discovered the tobacco cigar. But we got off there a little bit.
That's okay.
I want to.
You want to hear some more repertoire?
About the Schimmel, yeah.
Okay. All right. So where was I?
One thing I was going to say,
Yeah.
I looked it up.
Yeah.
They're in Braunschweig. Well, they originally were founded in 1885 in Leipzig, which is where a lot of piano makers came out.
Schimmel was.
Schimmel.
Okay.
And now they had two, I forget, there's one factory in Poland and there's another one in Braunschweig, which is in Saxony, which is old East Germany, down in the more like the central southeast part of Germany.
Wow.
That's where they're from. And they made an arrangement for it's called Fridolin Schimmel to be manufactured in China. So there's Schimmels that are made in China as well.
Wow.
But they have a different name or an added name to them or something. It still says Schimmel.
Okay.
But you can tell from stuff on the inside that it's Chinese made.
Wow.
Sorry, China, but Graves has some of the best stuff you guys have to offer. Actually, from anywhere in the world. We got Bechsteins, August Försters, Steinways, Baldwins, the works, German Steinways.
Wow.
And they got Baldwins made in China and Pearl River.
Pearl River. But I noticed on the video they had a piano up there during some of the ads between performances. What the heck is Black Pearl?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it?
Yeah.
Black Pearl?
I think
Piano?
it's a piano, yeah.
Wow.
Well, and now, of course, China's apparently the market is kind of bottoming out. Also, it's not as big a deal to study it. I don't know how much of that is apparently the economy.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But
Wow.
now let's go on with the Schimmel. It's interesting. Yeah. There's some good pianos that come out of East Germany. Blüthner's, that they're still made there since the 1880s. Blüthner's famous because it has the extra A-graph and it has 4 strings in some cases. Instead of 3, and then where there are 2, they have 3. They have more strings, and then a second A-graph, which is Mason Hammond did that as well. Wow. So that you have that extra trough of tied off resonance from the partials above the fundamental that you can get ringing in the piano. Blüthner's are really amazing instruments. But then I play these ones called August Förster. It's a small, still family-run company that at least kind of disappeared during the Iron Curtain shed. But some of them survived. Even the Petrov in the Czech Republic managed to survive. Having been a state-controlled thing for a while, and the family got a hold of it again. It's been manufactured. I played some good ones. I owned it, Petrov upright, from living in Europe, and it was a
Graves used to have
good piano.
I don't think still do.
Yeah, so a Schimmel's not a Steinway, but then not every Steinway is a Steinway. That's a problem with Steinway. Steinways are generally pretty good, but sometimes you get, So occasionally, you pull it up. Yeah, that's a word, right? Or you pull the pear off the tree and you see the other side's got a bruise on it and start to rot inside. And then, of course, basically any Steinways that were built in the 70s with Kraft owned the company.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Don't buy
That's a sad story.
Yeah, they really were trying to mass manufacture and cheapen it. It drove people out of there. Yeah. That's how, what was the piano?
Yamaha
the JP, the pianist that went to work for Jay, made his own.
Oh, that guy.
They were from
Steinway.
three generations of family that worked as engineers with Steinway. I'm sorry, I'll think of his name. Yeah. I had a beautiful grand piano twice Actually, I won the competition at Rockets in Denver, the mountain range.
Yep.
They had their own competition, and I won it. And I had a 7+ foot. I'll think of it.
Okay.
Magnificent piano, really amazing. They were Steinway people, but they got pissed off with what they were doing at Steinway, New York.
Yeah.
When Kraft took over, and they just left. A whole bunch of gifted people left and went out on their own. But anyway, let's get back to Schindler.
Okay, so we left with
The guy
Andrew-
playing the Poulenc.
Andrew Yang, who played Poulenc and the Prokofiev Sonata, fourth movement. Okay, so after that, this next guy shows up. Tall, thin, nice suit, open collar, good-looking fella. I don't know how to pronounce his name. His last name has like C-R or K-R-S-T-S-Z, something like that. At
No
the end.
vowels.
There's no vowels in it. The last name has no vowels. And
Usually
his,
that's like one of those Hungarian names or something.
it was, I don't know if he's Hungarian. I was going to venture to say he might be, he kind of reminded me of that one pianist, Kemal Gekic. Remember that name? You don't remember Kemal? Oh, okay. Well, I have a couple of his CDs. But anyways, he was a good-looking guy, and his German was actually very good. He's fluent. He spoke very fluent German. As a matter of fact, he looked very relaxed up there, unlike the other contestants who were all reading what?
You know that name?
Bramberger?
You know the name, right?
No, I don't.
Promberger?
Promberger?
The name I was trying to think of, sorry, is Promberger. They were a family of at least 3 generations that worked as engineers
At Steinway?
at Steinway. And then they went off and made their own pianos for about a decade, from 80 to 90 or something like that. Promberger. And then the son of the more recent one, but still older guy, I forget what his first name was, but Jay Promberger, was taken on by Young Chang.
Yeah.
Young Chang.
Yeah.
A Korean piano maker. They wanted to come up in the world and compete with Kawai and
Yamaha and all those. Yeah.
And they approached Promberger and they said, "We'll build you a factory from the ground up. You can specify everything, even like where the pencil rests on the desk. We will fix it exactly the way you want." And they manufactured. I don't know if they're still doing it.
Yeah.
But for a period of time, they made some great pianos.
Yeah.
The first piano I bought back here in the United States, I went up to Toledo and found one. It was 6 foot.
Yeah.
Promberger. I got it for a really good price. It was like $7,500 to $8,000 back then.
Wow.
It was a beautiful piano. And I played some other ones. Like I first ran into them out in Colorado at Chris Figure's piano shop. Really great one outside of Boulder. Beautiful piano. It's really wonderful. And then I was in the Promberger competition in Denver before I left for Europe to go take that professor job. I won the competition, and I got a year's use of one of their pianos. And actually, what I wanted the use of was a concert grant, but it wouldn't fit up the stairs in my apartment building. So they took it away and they brought me back a 7'4" or something like that. Rosewood.
Yeah.
Beautiful piano, beautiful to look at, brand new, perfect everything, and really wonderful action. And the really cool thing, like, not nearly as amazing as the Shigeru Kawai, but still way better than a lot of people's pianos. It sang up to the very top C. It was voiced all the way up.
That's beautiful when a piano
And it
can
had
do that.
the bass of the Promberger. What was nice about it, it wasn't that kind of, let's put it this way, Steinway's wonderful. It has its sound. But if you get other instrumental sounds in your heads like Bechstein, that's a different instrument. Bösendorf was very different.
Yeah.
Especially the earlier ones.
Yeah.
This had kind of like a Bechstein bass, as opposed to a Steinway bass. Interesting because it was designed by a Steinway engineer. But it reminded me more of not so much the boom and blossom and fullness of a Steinway, but more timbral separation of registers in the bass of a Bechstein.
Huh.
So you get more possible different colors in the bass because of the string length and stuff. But a really beautiful singing sound. It was lovely. I had it for a year, and then I gave it back and left for Europe.
Wow.
Sorry to interrupt, but
That's all right.
if you get a chance and you find a Promberger, which is basically made from the mid-90s until mid to, let's say 2005, 2010, something like that, apparently. It was about a 15 to 20 year period. And you want a really good, well-made piano, make sure you know its lineage has been well kept and taken care of and everything. They're usually not as expensive as, for example, Steinway or something like that, but they're very gratifying pianos to play and to hear and everything. I live in a smaller place now, so I went with digital hybrid, which is also very pleasing in its own way. But wow, I loved my Promberger, and I loved the ones I played. I'd always choose a Promberger over Schimmel, per se. But go ahead.
That's all right. All right, so we're back to the guy with the funny name, with the last name all consonants.
Oh yeah,
So,
Krusty.
Krusty. We'll just call him. Yeah.
Krusty.
He's either Icelandic or Ukrainian or Polish or I don't know. It's something. It's quite a name. But he so far his playing, in my opinion, surpassed all the others before it. So
Really?
his playing kind of stuck out. He knew exactly what to do with the pedals and everything.
What's his first name?
I don't know his first name.
Well, we're going to call him Krusty.
Oh, Jan.
Oh,
Jan. N is Nancy. It was Jan something.
Okay,
So-
Jan Krusty.
Yeah, so anyways, he opens with the first movement of the Appassionata, and then he followed that up with the F minor Transcendental Etude by Liszt, and then he closed with Chopin Ballade number 4.
Ooh,
So it's an all F minor,
that's
Program.
interesting.
so it's what he did, and it was done very well.
Is this over, or is this just the preliminaries?
No, well, this is round 1, day
Uh-huh.
1, round 1, because I saw another video that says round 1, day 2.
So they eliminated a lot of people, and then these are the guys that get to play round 1? Is that how it works? Or anybody
I don't
that
know.
pays the fee and signs up gets to compete?
I don't know. I'll find that out when I get through the whole first round.
You know who the judges are?
I don't know who the judges are. They didn't specify who the judges were in the information that was right there on the video, but there were only 5 judges. 5 judges, and there was hardly any people in there.
Ah.
You know, I would guess 10 to 12 tops as far as audience
early
members.
round.
Perhaps, I don't know, but we'll find out. But I'm going to keep my eye on this competition. I'll give you more.
You watching on YouTube or something?
I'm watching on YouTube.
Okay, people. So this Schimmel thing's on YouTube.
Yeah, so you can watch
It's
it
live
yourself.
or pre-recorded?
Oh no, it's pre-recorded already. I mean, the thing's over.
Oh, it's all of it.
It's all over. It's
Oh,
been done
oh.
for a few days here
Oh.
because I saw the other video that says
Don't
the
give it
fin-
away. Don't give it away.
Well, I won't give it away. I'm just saying there's a finals video, the winners concert. So
There's like 3 of them, or
I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. I'll
Good for you.
find out when I get there. But anyways, this young man, Jan Krusty, so far he's played the best so far. I mean, he's stuck out of all the rest. Now, what comes afterwards? A young lady whose German was not great. She's another Asian. Her name is, I don't remember her name either, but she's obviously Asian. Long, dark hair, dressed in a black blouse, black pants, black shoes, comes up and she performs, oh gosh, help me out. She did the F minor variations by Haydn. Yeah, she starts off with that, and she follows that up with the Sonata Opus 1 Alban Berg. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to me as you talk to me about this.
I can't believe I
How,
can remember.
what are they doing nowadays in the Van Cliburn, like in the first round?
The first round.
Do they get to have this wide variety of repertoire that they pursue? They can play pretty much anything they want.
Pretty much anything they want, but I mean the rules have changed each time they have the competitions.
Because I was thinking when I was back at the age where I was doing some competition stuff. I mean, I didn't go to the Gita Bakar, but I was thinking about going and getting prepared for it. It was interesting that it used to be that they were set a little bit so that the different rounds had different stages. Like, maybe more than likely the first round had some Bach or somebody like Bach.
Yeah.
There was some stuff to test your classical chops.
Yeah.
And that meant Mozart, Haydn, and up to
Clementi.
about mid Beethoven, maybe, or
Clementi.
early Schubert, maybe Clementi. I don't know. But interestingly, they tended to have a list of repertoire, and you chose the things from the given list of repertoire. Remember that? I think it was true about the Gina Bakar, because then they wanted to see your etude play, and they weren't all up there, but there were certain ones at Liszt and Chopin. And you had to play, I don't know who else there was, Rachmaninoff probably. You had to play 2 or 3 of those. Then you got a chance to show your romantic chops.
Yeah.
And then you had some 20th century time. I don't know, they don't always have concerti. I think, the one I'm thinking of was just solo repertoire.
Yeah.
Without the concerto. But when you list these people and what they're playing, it's a little bit like a cooking competition where somebody brings in their beef Wellington.
Yeah.
Somebody else brings in amazing homemade ice cream or gelato served up as a banana split.
Yeah.
With magnificent bananas, from the best place in the world, versus somebody who brings in a Boston cream pie. Somebody else brings in their own homemade pizza. What do you choose?
I know.
I mean, how do you compare beef Wellington with Boston cream pie? I mean, it's like when you talk about Poulenc and Prokofiev versus Haydn F minor and the Alban Berg Sonata. F minor guy sounds kind of convincing because he's traipsing through some different things.
Yeah.
That's kind of an odd thing. I mean, maybe what they're trying to do is, you'll have to let us know, does it get more specific about, or more confining what they have to play eventually? Or, because the first one might be, play whatever you're most comfortable with that you feel demonstrates you as a musician and a pianist.
Yeah.
And then the judges are going to say, well, that guy, that girl.
Yeah.
These ones, I'm fine with this. This was like going to a piano recital and I paid a ticket to hear this guy play that repertoire.
Yeah.
That's not a bad way to start it because you can let them have their own voice and play what they really feel passionate about or what they really think they get or what they bring across. And then maybe start applying the vices a little bit, start hunkering down. Or does it stay that way all the way through? But then my concern is, I mean, like the Van Cliburn is famous for being an exhaustive, not necessarily exhausting, but exhaustive in that he wanted to make sure that the winner can play solo, chamber, and concerto repertoire.
Yeah.
They don't do the voice stuff there, but that's a whole different world.
Yeah.
But that's, well, there's still traditional competitions going where it's a little bit more, not as universal as all that. But my concern would be the Schemmel thing, like, depending on who wins and what they played, can they build a career out of that? Is that the point of winning the competition?
Well,
because
that goes back to my marimba friend. He says the whole idea of getting these tours.
This guy's out of the task force.
Yeah. He says the whole idea of going on these concert tours is to get your name out there and see if anybody calls you back.
Yeah.
And you know, unfortunately, some pianists, they go out to tour, but they don't get called back.
Yeah.
And so they wind up being, you know, professors someplace.
Yeah.
Not necessarily artists in residence, but that's what happens.
What is it that makes a commercially successful classical artist, you know, in this day and age? I mean, think about some of them.
Charisma.
Definitely.
Menachem Pressler said it. He said in one of his interviews, he says, "What are you looking for at the Van Cliburn competition?"
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "I am looking for a pianist that exhibits a certain kind of charisma that you cannot simply get out of your mind.
Yeah.
And you have to keep coming back. That is what I'm looking for."
John Lim has that.
Chan Lim definitely has that.
Charisma. I mean, it's
young,
kind of
he's
sweet
handsome.
and almost innocent in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Not naive, but kind of sweet. He's not really been tested by the world yet.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't. He really suffered and lost, you know, terrible things.
It's like Orpheus.
His heart broken.
It's like Orpheus going in the underworld, trying to look for his love or something.
But
that's
all of these like that. I think, you know, I thought sure Tchaikovsky had charisma of his own.
Oh yeah,
you know,
well,
just his tiny little guy, little squat, you know, and the way that he would bow, and you know the way that he was still kind of short when he sat on the bench. His legs went straight down to the pedals. There was no room for bend knees there.
Yeah.
You know, and he was playing, you know, very focused like this. Yeah. But then he would get up and he would kind of like bend a little bit to the left.
Yeah.
You know, and very formally. You know, there's nothing relaxed.
But he was also a joker, though. I remember one performance he did a Mozart sonata for an encore. C major one. Ya dee da dee da da da. And when it came to the scales, he played the scales with one finger. Yeah, exactly. And the whole audience went. The whole audience gasped. It was the funniest thing.
Why not? Why not? That's sweet. That's cute. So that's true. So maybe, I don't know. I mean.
Yeah. Earl Wild said he was
everybody
he did it. He said he couldn't stop from laughing.
Everybody and their mother wants to do these competitions, and it's. I mean, I remember I was an age where I did some of them, not real big international ones. Didn't have really the money to it, and I kind of was following more an academic path because I wanted to be a professor.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a sad reality, especially if you're going to break into the big leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, Arthur Rubinstein did it way
Yeah.
back when. Bachhaus beat him.
Yeah.
You know, but it's been going on forever. Probably will go on forever.
Well, I'll tell you what I wanted.
I think they're a little vulgar in certain ways.
I wanted the life Franz Liszt had. The one where he was a touring virtuoso.
Oh, he could screw every
composer.
other one all over here.
No, nothing like that. But at least be touring and performing, you know, and going to parties and enjoying life. And then at the end, near the he just opened this sort of like let students into his life. They lived with him, and he gave lessons the whole day while he composed.
Yeah, there's a number of guys that did that kind of thing. That Kempf and Schnabel both did that.
They did that. They had large houses like
they had
this.
big places. I don't think they lived with them.
Yeah,
but they had their homes were opened up and they'd have these master classes every day. The kids would come. I forget who it was. There was somebody I knew that was going to be really late to the master class if he drove, so he swam across where the lake was in Switzerland where Kempf was doing his master classes.
No.
And he arrived and he went to the kitchen. He said, "Can I get some clothes?" And stuff. And he showed up, not quite well dressed, but he apologized. He said, I was going to be so late, so I swam across the lake.
He swam across the lake.
It's kind of a famous guy. I don't remember who it was.
To see Wilhelm Kempf?
To play for him, in the master classes.
Holy
My
crap.
teacher, Howard, at Fulbright, and he went and did the summer master classes with
Yeah, but he didn't swim across the lake.
But I forget who the guys that did it. I'll look it up, because it was kind of a good story, right?
That is an excellent story.
I would not, though. I went to the Liszt house in Bayreuth, where he died. He's buried in Bayreuth. It's a nice kind of capella, a little kind of a little miniature capella or chapel thing kind of thing. But it stands up and has his name on everything that's in the cemetery where a lot of famous people are buried. Wagner and his wife Cosima are buried behind the house in the woods. But Liszt is in Bayreuth Cemetery. But his house is there just on the street running next to Wagner's house, Bonfrey. And there's, his furniture, some of his furniture was in there, a cast of his hand. The death mask was in a glass receptacle, which was right next to the bed where he died. That was really powerful to be right there and see that. But it was interesting that there was memorabilia from his tours and all of that. I would not have wanted to have been Liszt because he did that in stagecoaches.
Well, today
for 10 years.
Yeah,
he traversed between London and Moscow in stagecoaches. Well, then put on this one. Then Mozart went on the European tours.
Yeah.
And his mom took him to France and England, and he had to ride his dad from France. That mom died.
Oh.
That was bad, but that was in coaches. No, I think the best nowadays would be Christian Zimmerman because he does the same thing that Paderewski did.
Oh, travels by train.
Has his own train cars. Two of them, I think. One to live in, one with the piano.
Pyotr Andrzejewski does the same thing.
And that's primarily why he stays in Europe. But he just hooks up his trains and goes on tour. So that would be cool.
Okay, we're ready to hear some more?
Okay.
Okay, so where was I? I stopped at
the lady who you couldn't
did Alvin Berry. Okay.
But you did remember how she was dressed.
Yeah.
Which doesn't say much about
black
her
blouse, black pants, black shoes. I mean, she looked, like I said, it was very serious looking.
Yeah. Can't remember a damn note she played, but
Well, of course I did. I said she opened with the Variations in F minor.
Oh, that was right. Oh, that.
And the Alvin Berry Sonata.
But he remembered more quickly when she wore the one she played. And all I'm saying about that is the playing was not the first thing that you remembered. Where it was with Krusty.
Hey, I said he was.
And Andrew.
Hey, I said what I said about Krusty.
I'm not saying that you're sexist. He just says something about the performer.
Yeah, but I said he was dressed in a nice suit, open collar.
I know.
He was he was a good-looking fella.
About was his play very much, and you mentioned Andrew Young's Bulak.
Yeah,
very much, and I remember those things.
Yeah, but it was obvious. I mean, if you were sitting there with me, it said you'd be sitting there going, "Oh, Bulak, boy, that's like a cool, refreshing drink after what we heard after." Well, all the big pieces before that. So, but anyways, all right, we're getting to the last person I heard today on this video, and it was another Asian lady, and she was very nervous.
Oh,
she was very nervous. I felt kind of bad for her. She was very nervous, even when she was trying to give her little speech in German. I hope they understood her German. I felt bad for her. I'm sorry. I mean, she went up there and gave her all, and I think the nerves got to her.
What did she play?
Well, she played the Haydn C major fantasy, and she played. C major fantasy, and you know what? I'm not sure if I got to the next part after that. I might have had to leave before that. And I forgot the one lady that played the. Oh gosh, if I can remember. No. I'm reverting back, rewinding, because somebody played the Saint-Saëns Liszt Danse Macabre. That was on the program. Somebody played that. I don't remember which one now. Daggone it.
It's all right.
That's all right. But anyways, that was pretty much the whole program for round one, day one. this competition. I mean, that was the whole thing. Right
So
there.
how many were there? 10 of them, maybe?
Nine.
9 of them?
9 pianists, because I remember it was all 3 here, and then they took
How
a
many
ad
rounds
break.
are there? Do you know?
Don't know. Don't know. All I'm getting ready to watch is finish off round 1, day 1, and then I'm going to watch round 1, day 2.
It's still round 1.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
still
so
round
more
1,
of them.
so there's more. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and that one seems longer, because this one only lasted something like, what, 3 or 4 hours, I think.
So that was the thing. You said the guy played. Who was the crusty guy? He played F minor pieces.
He played all F
And
minor
what did he play?
pieces.
What did he play?
He played the first movement of the Appassionata, and
Okay.
then he played the F minor Transcendental Etude by Liszt, and then he closed with Chopin Ballade.
So these people are restricted to about 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
30 minutes, and that was
Wow.
it. So the next one, the next bit is longer. It's like 8 hours long.
Because you get to play longer stuff.
Well,
Well,
I don't
guess
know
you
if it
gotta
is.
test them. You got to see what somebody does with a whole sonata, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, that was the Schimmel competition so far. All right, next segment. Did we talk about Olafsson yet?
Nope.
Olafsson, the Tiny Desk concert.
That's pretty cool.
That
I
was,
actually thought I'd put a link to it
Yeah.
on when I edit this
Yeah.
one. I think I can add a link. Not that you click on it, but you could write it down and go
Yeah.
and see it. NPR does these little Tiny Desk
Yeah.
concerts. All kinds of people.
Yeah.
You know where they happen or anything? I don't know where they happen.
I don't know.
It's the
looks
same setting. All the
Yeah.
time.
like, it looks like New York.
It's a library of sorts, and there's a space set up, a small area, empty area. Presumably, the way he talked, he was playing an upright piano. It was his upright piano, right?
That was-
The way he talks about it, like it was the one that he grew up with.
Well, he said he had one,
Yeah, I don't know.
but he said that the main family piano was a grand piano, which was downstairs, but in his
they
bedroom
got him.
he had a piano
Data
just like
shop,
this
right?
one, with an upright. That he
So I
could
don't know
just-
if it's the same one. It's a very pronounced sound, very lovely. I think it strikes me as a European
Yeah.
sound,
Yeah.
right? But he plays the overture and the first variation from
Oh, the aria,
the aria and
the first variation from the Goldberg.
because he's traveling internationally
Yeah.
performing that. Then some very interesting repertoire.
Oh.
Then after that is the very last composition that Rameau wrote,
Wrote, yes,
which he did as an arrangement.
La Boreada,
Yeah.
that
And then the third thing was
the Hungarians folk songs.
Oh, right.
Talk.
3 Hungarian folk songs, Bartok, which
Yeah.
were really quite lovely.
Yeah,
And then he finished up with an Icelandic piece
Ave Maria.
called Ave Maria, where it was his transcription again,
Yeah,
but it was written by an amateur, as he called it,
yeah,
doctor,
doctor.
who was also a very strong amateur musician, but his music is well known to the Icelanders.
Yeah.
And it was also very lovely.
Oh yeah,
It was really
beautiful.
lovely.
His arrangement of it.
I was really quite taken with the guy.
Yeah, so was I.
He's very wonderful ear, wonderful
Oh,
sense
gosh,
of touch,
yeah.
and balancing things.
Yeah, and I texted you back concerning that performance. I was just amazed by the Rameau work, where the way he arches the phrases. Yeah, it had the feeling of being in a comfortable, soft recliner, and you raise your arms and you stretch.
Yeah,
That's what it sounded like. It felt like it made you feel like you wanted to stretch.
Mhm.
It was an amazing way he did it, and he did it carefully. It was a manipulation of not just the tone, but the tempo.
Yeah.
You know, and he knew how to weigh the bass notes down here. Some of them you could just barely hear, but it was there. It had a presence, very soft presence. You know? And then the what he did with the thumb and the moving lines in the
Yeah.
middle, they were there, but they were very subtle. But they were
Yeah.
clearly there, and they
Yeah.
were expressive.
Yeah.
They were expressive. You know,
I
it was
haven't heard
amazing.
his entire Goldberg,
No, I haven't either.
because I don't know if it's been released anywhere yet, but I've heard excerpts from it. And
Yeah.
various people have put something up on the news, and there's a portion of it. And I've read uh, reviews.
Yeah.
People are, some people love it, some people don't.
Don't like it.
But from what I heard from the aria and the first variation, I think it's very interesting. It's different.
Yeah.
It's very beautifully played, very cleanly played.
Yeah, but it's alive. It's
breathing.
It's breathing. It's
breathing,
alive.
and
It's got a heartbeat.
It's gestural in the way that
And the way he
kind of
answered,
talks
da da
about
da da
things.
da 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 da
Yeah.
da da.
And I thought was it in that one or the first variation where that inner voice was he actually played staccato with his thumb.
I was wondering about that too. I was going to ask you about that. I've never heard that.
But what he's very good at, is separating the hand,
Yes,
even in the bop, to
Yeah.
what he considers the melody
Yeah.
and what is
a
obviously
subordinate.
non-melodic
Yeah.
material. And it's not played so that they're all equal,
Yeah,
which, plenty of people do that.
yeah.
I mean, he's obviously a smart boy.
Very smart
Big brain
boy.
up there.
Oh yeah,
And
but he
he
understands.
had a very delicate touch. Of course, he's playing it upright, but still
But still,
very
I
nicely.
think he has a very clear understanding of what the key bed does.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
I read something that was comparing him, Viking Olafsson, and who's the Ansnes guy?
Leaf Onsness.
Leif Ansnes.
Yeah.
And apparently both of them have had these directing from the piano Mozart concerto
Oh, I didn't know
projects
that.
going on.
I did not know that.
And it was interesting because Ansnes, where's he from? Is he
He's Norwegian.
Norwegian? So I don't know his playing as much, but I imagine he does well.
Yeah.
Vikinger has probably a bit more fame right now, a little earlier. But they were both apparently working on Mozart concerto projects, perhaps recording these things, and they're conducting from the keyboard. And it was interesting to hear what they said about the two of them. Comparisons. If you can look it up, I'll see if I can look it up and find it and post a reference to it in the editing. There's a really good comparison of the two of them and what they liked and didn't like, or what they thought one did better than the other. But in general, they admired both.
Oh yeah.
But they just said, this is guava and this is persimmon. It's just like two totally different fruits here.
Yeah.
Different things, different ideas going on, but they're both have lots of wonderful qualities.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I kind of like what's going on. And remember I told you about that, you've seen it, I don't know who shared it first. The Polish-Canadian pianist Jan Lisetsky or whatever it is, who played we watched
the Chopin?
Chopin F minor.
Oh, that one.
Where he was directing the
Yes.
orchestra.
Yeah, I remember that. It was the last movie.
I'll look up his name and get it right.
Yeah.
He's about 26 now or something
Probably.
like that. Brilliant. He was another one of these kind of, what's the word, the polymaths kind of guys. But there's a wonderful video recording, and maybe I could start. I don't think that we want to mess with this, inserting these things in our shows, but we can at least include a address that you could copy and then you watch it yourself. And we can do that occasionally.
Sure we can.
But Lisetsky, I think it's something like Liseski or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's Polish Canadian.
Polish Canadian.
Polish Canadian, yeah. But it's a very interesting performance of the Chopin F minor concerto, full-size piano, right? It's a modern piano.
Yeah.
But the way that he plays is so much lighter and chamber-like he's playing chamber music, and a smaller orchestra. They're all there around the piano like this, and he's directing them from the piano. They're playing with him. It's a very interesting performance because, from a point of view of historic performance practice, I can imagine that's how it first happened. Like in Vienna, Chopin did them both, I think. When he came by way of Vienna before he got to Paris. And I doubt it was like a big formal, huge orchestra thing in a
Yeah.
huge hall, because that stuff really hadn't quite gotten that far yet.
Yeah.
Liszt kind of had an influence on that kind of thing happening,
Yeah.
but it wasn't really until the 40s and thereafter that they began to have this idea of like having a big hall with the orchestra,
Yeah.
piano in there, and doing all this stuff together. When Beethoven played his concerti, Theater der Wien, for example, a famous place, um, these were smaller venues, you know.
Yeah.
When he did his symphonies and stuff, in some cases, these things were done in the big, great halls of the aristocracy
Yeah.
or the nobility.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Chopin came out about 19. He was born in 1810. This is 1829.
Yeah.
That's when he's coming around through Vienna and as he heads towards Paris.
Paris. Yeah.
There was not yet a tradition of these big concert halls, so I think it's possible that that Polish guy is kind of recreating what it would have been originally like,
Yeah.
and it's refreshingly wonderful.
Oh yeah.
He does the same thing with the Chopin that Yun Chun Lim does with the Rachmaninoff 1/3.
Yeah.
It's give and take and a lot of
Yeah.
gentleness. There are very clearly moments. Never quite heard him that way.
Yeah.
I thought about them that way, but no, he's actually like accompanying the orchestra here, but he's playing.
Yeah.
But he's not necessarily the big shot.
Yeah.
He's just
Exactly.
fussing around. And why not? Because Chopin had a beautiful classical education. You know, he learned on a square piano in his own home, and the technique and the repertoire stuff that he was learning, presumably in his own teaching. The farthest he went was maybe the Appassionata, or not even that far. Mid-Beethoven, that's as far as he went.
Yeah.
He taught Mozart, and he taught lots of Bach.
Yeah.
And probably Mendelssohn, maybe I would mention. And his own music sometimes. But anyway.
Okay. Well,
Was
anyways.
that good?
Oh yeah, it's been very good. All right.
We talked about,
Oh, we talked a lot.
yeah, but what else you got there?
What else I got here? Well,
Has anybody else died or something?
no, nobody else died. Today, Deutsche Grammophon declared today was World Piano Day 2024.
We talked about that one.
So, yeah, like I said, they have this video on there.
Whoopee!
Yeah,
Hooray!
Yeah, they
We
highlight
celebrate World Piano Day every day ourselves and once a week. we do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Well, in the past, you had talked about a young student that you helped get through sort of a recital of some sort, and you got her to do certain things that she had trouble trying to learn piano repertoire, but you found a repertoire that.
Oh, yeah,
She
she
was-
was little Aslan.
Yeah, awesome. Well,
She was, what do you call it? Dyslexic.
dyslexic.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tell you about one highlight of my career as a teacher. I teach mostly kids. Okay, they reach anywhere. Well, my youngest student right now is 4 years old.
Oh, little dinker.
Yeah, and she's smart.
Yeah.
She's smart. She pays attention. She does, and she loves playing.
Good.
So I'm not gonna.
Wonderful.
I'm just gonna have fun with her and just play.
Yeah.
We'll do some coloring. I got her some coloring pages, and so I introduced her to so far Franz Schubert, Beethoven, and Stravinsky. Mostly because the pictures look just like the
What
colors.
amazes me about these little dinkers is their hands and fingers are so tiny.
Yeah.
And there was a video, I don't know if I shared it with you,
Yeah.
a little Chinese boy.
Yeah.
It was a comedy thing. Who's the black comedian guy who does the Family Feud show or something like that?
Oh, Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
You gotta look up this video. Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
With this little Chinese kid, little dinky little boy.
Yeah.
And he's playing the piano, but I mean, he's got these little stubber fingers, you know, and he's
Yeah.
playing something. It's not bad. It's actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
You know, physically, he just isn't
Yeah.
big enough there to even really work an octave yet.
Yeah.
But he's getting around doing it.
Yeah.
Steve Harvey's hilarious, and it's a wonderful thing. I'll see if I can find it and put it up.
Okay.
Because at some point after the kid plays, he goes, "This is to my children. I'm so sorry I failed you."
He said that.
Something like that. This is like a comedy thing.
Oh.
Anyway.
Well, anyway.
So just a little 4-year-old. I mean, you think about it.
Yeah.
They certainly can't reach the pedals,
Right.
and they're little tiny stubbers of fingers. You're like,
Yeah.
they're already playing like Horowitz at the end of his life. You know, it's all
Yeah.
flat finger stuff
Right.
because they don't even have joints yet.
Yeah. Exactly. But anyways, I teach kids. All right, and I have a couple kids. Well, right now, I don't think they're quite in high school yet. Okay, I think they're like maybe in 7th or 8th grade. They're the oldest ones. But anyways, I want to go back. I think it was in somewhere in the first decade of the 2000. I had a young lady who's a senior in high school, and I've had her since she was maybe 9 or 10 years old. I had her for a really long time. Now, mind you, she got by. Okay, I used to teach her out of the Alfred's Basic Piano Library, and she got through 1A, she got through 1B, she got to level 2, and that's as far as I got her in when she got to high school, because she's in high school. They need to be playing something that with a little bit more substance, or you're just going to lose them. You can't keep them in method books in high school.
What you do is just like ding, 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 ding,
Yeah,
ding,
basically.
dinky stuff, right?
Yeah, basically. And so, anyways, the one thing in level 2, they do teach you about triads, chords. So they teach you the primary chords: 1, 4, 1, 5, 7, 1. And as far as they got, you learn it in C major, you learn it in G major, and you learn in D major, and that's it. As far as she got in level 2. So that's all she's got. And so, anyways, it's her senior year. Before that, all I got her to do was just some simple, easy piano pop songs. Some of it she was interested in, some of it she wasn't so interested in.
Yeah.
And so her interest in the music came and went sometimes. So she'll find a song that she wants to learn to play. So I'll go out and find an easy piano version of it. And she'll be interested in it for about a couple weeks to a month, and then gone. All right. Now, she had a social life as well. Okay. She's a high school cheerleader. She was very busy. Anyways, it's her senior year, and I thought for the student recital she should close for us. She was the only senior I had in the whole recital, so I thought fitting. It's her senior year. Let her have her time in the spotlight. So she got to close for us. I always let the seniors play last. Okay, since it's their last one, and since she was the only one we had, of course, she's going to wind up in that spot. So I had to find a fitting piece for her to play that she would like, and she would work very hard on. And so the piece I picked for her was Andreas Bocelli's "Time to Say Goodbye."
Oh.
Time to Say Goodbye. I found a natural piano solo arrangement of it. And it was, okay, I'll say it's sort of an late intermediate level of playing. And so I doctored it up in a certain way where I had to delete some notes, so we cut a few corners, but it still sounded impressive. She knew how to play root position chords. Okay, so I put all the chords in root position, basically. And so they had this boom, chunk, 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 boom, chunk, chunk, chunk. And so I said, you see these booms here? That's the root of the chord. What I want you to do when you get to the final page where it gets really loud, I want you to go down here and double up on octaves. You know what an octave is? So this is an octave. So you're playing C here and that C there.
Right.
So she's doubling up on the bass notes here while she's playing root position chords up here. Now, what she was very good at was reading treble clef notes. Bass clef notes, not so hot. So above the treble clef notes, I wrote down the name of the chord. So if it's C major, I just wrote C. If it's F major, I wrote F. If it's G, just G. Forget about G7 and whatever sevens, just the basic major or minor chord. And anyways, she got it to a point where, she could play it impressively and look impressive. All right. Problem? Well, it's already 1 week before the actual student recital, and she still doesn't have it memorized. We had a rehearsal, and she was flubbing up all over the place. Still not learned quite up to par. I got her to play the melody on the right hand in octaves. So she's playing octave root chords here and playing octave melody here on the last page, right? So we have one last piano lesson before the recital, and I'm there for about an hour and a half, trying to see if we can get her to clean up a few stuff, right? And it's still like 3 or 4 days before the recital, and I have to spend more time with some of my other students because some of them are struggling as well for the recital. So day of recital comes, right? And I decide to just hang it up because they're going to do whatever they're going to do at the recital, right? You're not going to fix it a few hours before the recital. They either know it or they don't, right? So a couple hours before the recital, I get a phone call from my student's mom, and she says, "Is this Mr. Cabotage? This is something really bad happened today, and it's she may not be in the best of moods to be playing tonight. Okay, just giving you a heads up." She was in high school. So she's getting ready to leave.
Perfect situation for this music.
Yeah, it was perfect. So she's with it, and
she's a cheerleader.
She's a cheerleader and all
so
that.
I can guess what it is.
What do you think happened?
She broke up with her boyfriend.
No. Well, you're close. Her boyfriend broke up with her.
Well,
she invited him to this recital, and he said he didn't want to go. And so he broke up with her.
Wow. Before the recital.
Just before the recital, and meanwhile,
boy's a dick.
So
there's no gentleman like us there. You don't do that just
on the day of the recital.
The person that you care about one way or another.
So
she's officially a dick.
Yeah. So her fellow cheerleaders come over to comfort her, and they drive her home. They drive her home, and mom's telling me that she's been in her room. She's been crying the whole afternoon. And so, is she ready? And I asked her, "Is she ready?" He says, "I don't know if she's ready, but I'm going to make sure she comes, though."
Good.
Okay, she's going to come.
Good.
And so, the student recital starts. Okay, and all the kids are playing really well. We had back then I had 25 to 30 kids.
It was pre-COVID.
It was very
pre-COVID.
Yeah, but we got it. We had the system figured out.
Yeah.
We got done in more or less an hour. Believe it or not. So it was. So I mean, I get the kids to memorize their music. Teachers, get the kids to memorize the music, please. You don't want them going over there on the piano, spending all that time trying to find the song in the book. Just get them up there, sit down, play, stand up, take a bow, walk off.
The little ones are usually pretty good at it.
Oh yeah, they're very good. And they're fearless. The little ones, they just get up there, boom, da-da-da-da-da, boom, I'm done. Just bye. And they just run off stage. Now, what do we do, old folks do?
Yeah.
We get up there on the piano, sit ourselves down, and go, a few moments to ourselves. So, are we ready? No, it still doesn't feel right.
Well, he's like that. That's not what I do.
Anyway, so an hour passes, and it's time for my young cheerleader student to come up. And she goes up there, and she's decked out. She looks beautiful.
Mm.
And she's got her dress on,
Oh.
and it says, I'm at the side of I'm outside the stage door, and it says, and I give her a few, he says, your night, okay. He says, do the best you can. I know what happened today. And he says, and I'm still proud of you.
Good for you.
I gave her a big hug. He says, let's fix you up here. You look nice. Made sure her hair was straight, dress was straight. I open the door, and she walks off. And so she goes in there, and since she's the last two, I just go in there with her, and I just shut the door. And she goes up there, and she has her head down the whole time, and she starts to play, and daggone it, she got through the whole entire piece without dropping a note, dropping a beat.
Wow.
I was so proud of her. And I tell you, she had her own cheering section in the audience. Her family, she had her parents, her sister, her older sister, her younger sister, younger brother, her grandparents, and her cheerleading squad was there. They all stood up, and I tell you, there was not a dry eye in that whole section.
Yeah.
And so she came up and she took a bow, and I watched her take. I told her several bows. Just keep bowing. I told her to bow. So I came up on stage, and she gave me the biggest hug.
Oh.
And she wouldn't let go.
Oh.
The whole time. And so, I told her, I says, you did good, kid. I told her, you did good, kid. So, but anyways, that was all the worth it.
Teaching has its own rewards.
Yeah, that
and some really memorable.
That one. Like I said, after recital was over, there was a reception, and she was over there with her cheerleading squad. They were all giving her hugs and kisses, and they were all crying. Mom and Dad, they wanted her to have her pictures taken with the girls and then with their teacher. That was so years ago.
Share something.
Sure.
I don't have the book right here. I think it's in my library on the other side. Bill Moyers used to be a CBS news correspondent. And as he got on in his career, he did some really interesting special series. And one that I watched years ago when I was in Boulder, I think is when it was happening.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, it was called I think it was called The Mystery of Healing or something.
Yeah.
Or the Healing in the Mind. And it was looking at new developments in therapies that were alternative to either what we didn't even have before or just looking into different areas for it. The first show of 6 they did was called The Mystery of Qi. And he traveled he went to China with a surgeon, red-haired guy from Boston with a beard. And he was one of the first Fulbright students from the United States once Nixon had established ties with communist China. He went and he studied medicine in communist China.
Wow.
Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
How they do it. And he went over there, and eventually he came back and finished his work and became one of the foremost surgeons in Boston. But it was really wonderful because he went back and he met all of these amazing people, his teachers who were still alive, quite a few of them had been there. And one of the most emotional connections was with his calligraphy teacher. He learned how to do calligraphy. And it was quite an emotional exchange. It was really sweet. But he said something that I've never forgotten. It touched me deeply. A Chinese saying, a teacher for one day is like a parent for a lifetime. And what it means, what it's talking about, is, the privilege and the honor that the teacher has, but perhaps even way more important, responsibility
Yeah.
that the teacher has. Because if you're teaching, you know this. We certainly know it from experience. It's a huge responsibility because, especially when you're doing music, you're dealing with emotions and developing the mind and things in certain kind of ways. And there's a level of trust that develops between you and the student and the parents and all of that. And you play an enormous role in building or helping to this person build something in themselves. You know, you're working on helping them develop this system of synapses in the brain, teaching them structures, you know, that are going to affect them in very important ways, and their ears, and learning how to have an idea or a thought and to express it in a way that it can communicate to somebody else. And I've never forgotten that saying that a teacher for one day is like a parent for a lifetime. It's that important. I really hope you don't go into teaching just to make money, but that your heart's there and that you really take the welfare of these various people. I've had different age students. You probably do. I remember a couple of people when I was young at Wittenberg, and there was a community outreach program. Two of my students were older adults, like almost grandparents' age. There's an old black guy, and there's a black lady. Both of them, they were older, and I felt so close to them. Black guy didn't play a lot. He talked a lot.
Yeah.
He came in and liked to talk a lot, and then he'd show me, like, I do this or that. I mean, he was nowhere as good as U.B. Blake, but he kind of played around and stuff. He wasn't interested in reading music or anything, so he just liked to come in and talk and share some music and talk about music and his memories and stuff. That was his pianist.
Wow.
And then the other lady, she was a little bit more serious about it. And I remember she went to the hospital for something. It was real super bad. But she was so surprised and touched when I showed up at the hospital and visited her. And she was saying to other people, she says, "This is my piano teacher. This is my piano teacher. My piano teacher came to see me in the hospital."
Oh, God.
I just, I have so many wonderful memories of teaching, especially all the kids I worked with in Cyprus. It was also an honor to be in that culture because everybody called me hocam, which means my teacher in Turkish. And it wasn't just the kids, but people in the community that knew that I was a teacher at the university. They call me hocam.
Wow.
It was a sign of respect, you know. It's nice to be in a culture where, come on, I've deserved it. I've worked hard. And I got the hair to show it. You know, you respect your elders, you know, what they do. And it used to be like that when I was growing up, and I still behave that way with my elders. But it's maybe changed a bit, but it meant a lot, you know. Hocam, it actually comes out of Islam. It's actually not necessarily the high priest, not even the Muezzin, but it's kind of some level in there where the guy is actually the one who teaches the little boys how to read the Quran.
Oh, okay.
And there's the teacher in the religious school.
All right.
That's the hocam.
Okay.
Hoja. And you had the M, meaning my teacher, hocam.
Wow.
But that's where it comes from. But now they just universally use it, whatever they teach. That's a good story. And
Thanks.
I wonder if she would have played it differently had she not broken up with her boyfriend.
Yeah, I had wondered about that too. I thought about that, you know, days later. I was wondering because that moment was with me for a whole
You know,
week.
the way I said the guy
The whole
wasn't
thing.
a dick in a way for doing it, but it was kind of synchronistic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That it happened on the day when she had to play that piece.
piece. Yeah.
And at that age, before she goes off to college,
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to have your heart broken even that early in life.
Yeah.
The first time. You know?
Yeah.
It's such a drama, but then you get yourself.
Yeah, but I'll never forget it. Like I said, there was not a dry eye.
That's a great
in that
story.
whole section.
Yeah.
There was not a dry eye.
Well, did we do a good show today?
Oh, we did a wonderful show. We didn't get the show and tell, but I'll bring it back
2
next
hours.
week. Remember this movie? We talked about it earlier.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I brought it. I don't know.
Cool.
I'll leave it here if you want to listen to the guy play.
Did you have it, or you found
No,
it, or you
no,
bought it?
no. I bought it. I had to order this thing.
You got a DVD player at home?
I have a DVD player at
Oh.
home, but well, it's
I'm
kind
not
of
gonna
messed
have
up.
time this week.
It's kind of
With all
yeah,
Easter stuff, but maybe after that.
yeah. I mean, you can listen to
Kind of cool.
All right. Do you remember this movie? We talked about it in an earlier episode. It's Harvey Keitel in the movie Fingers. And
It was earlier, but it's not up yet. But
yeah, it's not.
Easter's this week. Easter's making things a little tight with my
Yeah.
time, but this will be a total then of 3 shows that I have to get edited now.
Okay.
So I got 2 more in the can plus this one.
Yeah.
I think within 2 weeks, people, these shows can become contemporaneous with the calendar. We can actually do one, put it up,
Post it.
and then the forum conversations could really start to
Yeah,
click together, you know.
yeah. Can't wait.
Well, we should probably
Heck.
bring this one to a close.
Okay, sure thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for all your work you did.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
We talked about some good stuff, bro.
Oh, we talked about some great stuff today. I mean, your thing with the physiology thing,
Hmm.
you know, with the hands and things. And,
Yeah, I doubt that you and Sean and his teacher are watching this, but
Yeah.
if anybody knows him and happens to, or knows somebody who knows somebody who knows
So
somebody,
somebody,
you know, I think it would be wise. Oh, he's got doctors. I mean, come on, he just won the climber. He probably has access to the
yeah,
best people anywhere. But when the football coaches, film stuff and then they work with the team. All coaches do this everything, especially with moving sports like soccer, football, and basketball.
Yeah.
Defensively moving. This part of the training is that you watch the films and you get to see, and then he'll tell you what you're doing wrong. Strategically in soccer or basketball, even football, it's all about positioning. But then in terms of the physical therapy and stuff, sometimes they show what they're doing and maybe how they need to change.
yeah,
It's the way they do something so that they don't make themselves more vulnerable to injury. But I have a feeling in this case it's just overused. He's probably not been playing that high level, that hard, that much ever before in his life.
probably not.
Yeah.
That's rough. And they say that winning the competition was not exactly the hardest part. What comes afterwards.
Yeah. Fulfilling
Yeah.
the things, and especially when you're as good as he is. I mean, there have been other people who want to have done this and that, and they've got to fulfill things, but
Yeah.
everybody knows that this guy is
Yeah.
special,
Oh yeah.
and everybody's going to want to hear it. But you got time, buddy. Was he like at 19?
He's 19 or 20 years old at this
Yeah,
point.
come on. A lot of kids aren't even done with undergraduate yet, right?
Right. Exactly. They haven't got.
And then there's the master's level.
Yeah.
You'll be an artist, so you may never need to do that, but wouldn't hurt you to learn more. But he's a studious guy anyway.
Oh yeah. He's very.
I mean, in the old days,
I like his
performers
numbers.
didn't go to school for study. They just did it. They just read everything and knew everything. But, you never know. When if you want to be a teacher, you might learn some things. And if you're going to teach in the States, you want to buy Carver, big artists and everything, it wouldn't kill you to get a master's degree.
Yeah.
Just have it for the kids.
Well,
Okay, buddy.
folks, I hope you enjoyed our show today, our episode. If you like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, tell friends and family.
And what do you do? Can you subscribe on Facebook too?
I
Is
don't
that subscribe? Did you follow it? I think
Yeah,
anyway.
it's it.
And there's some links between them.
Yeah.
One on Facebook. So it's Marc and
Elmer.
PSI, Elmer's PSI, or Piano Scene Investigations. You can find us on YouTube at that, or Facebook. Yeah. So we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Have a good Easter.
Yeah.
You won't get that message from us for another couple of weeks. Hope you had a good Easter and got lots of good chocolates.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, folks.